Hi, thank you for joining us on the Tomosi Business Training Series. Have you subscribed to our social media handles yet? If not, please do. Please visit our YouTube handle and subscribe. It's been 5 great months of covering the 7 key drivers of enterprise competitiveness. This week, we delve deeper into session 4 that covers science and innovation under the 5th key driver of enterprise competitiveness. Important to note is that scientific knowledge is the basis for progress and change in a business. There are 3 major ways of driving science and innovation. Innate knowledge as the first. Enjoy!
We are in the middle of our 5th driver of competitiveness, which is the use of scientific knowledge driven by technology and innovation. The primer of all social and economic change, the improvement of all conditions for every society we know in the last 2,000 years has been based on the use of science and technology. Even before the Romans, 2,000 years ago, when you read the account in the Bible of the movement of people groups from Egypt, then the premier civilization in the world at the time, about the 18th century BC, and this topic we have dealt with it in the past, in our past podcasts, you'll find that technology that was driven by science of the time very much aided the nature and kind of warfare that preceded the destruction of societies then, eventual submission of certain people groups, or the subjugation of those people groups by others. The Egyptian civilization was lost because it fell behind on science and innovation. Let's take an example. Pharaoh, the Pharaoh we know as Thutmose, Pharaoh Thutmose IV of ancient Egypt, who is believed to have faced Moses about the year 1390 BC, when Moses was making a case for a people group called the Hebrews, who had been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. When you read that account, when you dig into the history of that confrontation between Moses and Thutmose IV, and the eventual movement of this people group called Hebrew into other parts of Palestine, into present day, what we call the Levant, in Damascus, Syria, you notice references at that time, as early as 1390 BC, you will notice references to the use of words like, I quote, smiting with the edge of the sword. You find these references in the Bible. In fact, they appear about 24 times in the Old Testament. Smiting with the edge of a sword was a term that was popular in the middle of the late Bronze Age. The Bronze Age was about 1550 to 1000 BC. Smiting with the edge of the sword meant a single-edged curved battle axe that you not be able to thrust because it didn't have a throw shape, you know, throwing a spear or throwing even a sword. It was more like a grass-cutting sickle that was used in my village when I was a young boy, and it, you know, to cut grass in the field for use in the calf pens. That's what the edge of the sword was. That's what they would call smiting, because it was only able to smite you from the top. By the beginning of 1000 BC, at the start of the Iron Age, remember we are leaving the Bronze Age now to the Iron Age, technological warfare had improved, because now a wheel, which had been invented many centuries prior, was now more perfected. Horses had been introduced in fighting, I think. Now, the use of iron tools changed the language of the day, even in the Bible, and therefore it reflected the science of the day. Now, you begin to see new references to terms like driving the sword through and using chariots. So it's no longer smiting, it is driving the sword, because now the sword is metallic, is iron. What had happened? Science had changed on account of continuous innovation, even as slow as it was at that time. So how about today? When you can store an entire library, like the whole library of Makerere University and more, and the libraries of Kampala, you can store them on a small single computer chip, and you are able to print 3D models of products, of goods, that was unheard of even 10 years ago. What does that teach us? That the use of scientific knowledge is the basis for progress, is the basis for change. Science and innovation in a business is driven in 3 ways that I want to share with you today. First, it is called innate knowledge. Innate knowledge. The type of knowledge we learn from seeing our parents or our role models do or utilize or skill when we're growing up. There are particular skills that perhaps we traditionally value, such as weaving mats, a particular way of brewing alcohol, turning bark cloth into various products, or some kind of design of a kind, that, say for example, a unique way to prepare food, a unique way to prepare luombo here in Buganda, a way to plant crops like I used to when I was young. My father taught me part of the chore, you put the beans or the maize seeds in your mouth, you hold a hoe, you cut a hole in the ground, you spit 2, you cover with 1 foot. It's faster than digging the holes and then coming and putting the seeds and then covering. So you're combining 3 tasks in 1. So things like that, certain cultural norms and customs of life which are fast disappearing because of the new technology and commoditization of everything, yet people still like or often want to keep them or to improve them or to commercialize them. These are all innate skills. You haven't gone to school to learn them. You have watched your parents or you've watched someone you like do it, and you do it very well. That knowledge, young people out there, is of a scientific value. It has a kind of value that should not be underestimated, that should not be abandoned, simply because it is innate, simply because you haven't been in class to train in that knowledge. This is why there exists in our country's Ministry of Education and Sports a department for industrial training. I think it's called the Department of Industrial Training. It's on Ginger Road. That institution or department does a job of assessing that kind of knowledge, certifying that knowledge, and accrediting that innate local knowledge for building particular skills and technology in businesses of young people. So in other words, innovation and science is not flying aircrafts only, but even these innate skills, things that we have learned by way of seeing, can be professionalized and done in a particular way. So for example, at our dairy farm, our manager introduced a new way to fence. He puts 2 very strong poles close together, but he makes sure they go 1 meter underground. That's very long when you're digging a hole in the ground with your hands. 1 meter underground, and then a short distance, let's say 4 meters away from those 2 strong poles that have been sunk underground, he puts a 3rd pole. Now what stands in the middle of the 2 and the 4 meter away are very small, usually like tree branches. They are not treated with chemicals against termites. And they are overlaid with various levels of cables that are hanging on them. Now he also makes gates in resemblance of an accordion. Those of you who know a musical instrument called an accordion, an accordion shrinks and stretches when it's being played. In my mind, I have an image of the most memorable image is Idi Amin at Sheraton, I think about 1974, at a party, and he's playing that accordion. The gate which shrinks and stretches as you wish can be opened even by a child, by a young person with ease, but it is very strong. Animals cannot break it down. This method of fencing uses fewer treated poles. It makes the gates for animals very flexible, yet very strong. It also cuts down the cost of fencing by a good margin. Now, our manager has tried this against a lot of protestations, a lot of rejection from our traditional fencing teams. Until now, they see the difference. Now, this is the knowledge I'm talking about. The young people who are using this knowledge now, they can find patents. They can be employed on other farms of larger scale than ours. They can fence institutions that are bigger than farms. And this can be certified. This can be certified. So when you consider skills like that of Kamada Chigundu, who we spoke to on this podcast some months ago, and how he manages effluent in slums of Kawempe and Waise using rudimentary methods but still makes it very well. When you consider Shaifik Musoke with his way of turning steel coils into chain building materials and creating homegrown products with very little investment, it is all good innovation that can be scaled. After all, what is the meaning of strategy in business and in life? Isn't it to ensure that we can balance our means with our ends, given we know the target where we want to go, but our means are so limited? That is what innate knowledge gives us. So that was number one way of building innovation and science to become competitive in business. Have a great weekend.
Would like to hear from you. Please email us at info@tapmedia.com and visit our website at www.tapmedia.com. You can also visit our offices located at Tomosi Business Park, Luzira, Port Bell Road, or call 0414-220-702. Thank you.